Chapter 6, Lesson 1, Part B. The English Take Over. So set up your notes. So on the left side, the English take over. Why did the English take over? Why did the English take over New Netherland? Let's begin. King Charles II wanted England to control the entire Atlantic coast of North America. He wanted to build more settlements, control the fur trade, and acquire more lands rich in natural resources. There was one thing that prevented the king from achieving this goal: the colony of New Netherland. Both the English and the Dutch claimed ownership of lands in the Connecticut Valley as well as on Long Island. Charles II told his brother James, the Duke of York, he could have all of New Netherland if he could take the colony from the Dutch. In 1664, the Duke of York sent 4 warships to take New Netherland. When the ships arrived off the coast of New Netherland, the English ordered Stuyvesant to surrender. They said if he did not, they would attack. Stuyvesant wanted to battle the English. He tried to get the colonists to fight, but they refused. They knew they were outnumbered. The entire colony had less than 150 soldiers. Stuyvesant was forced to surrender, and the English took control of New Netherland without firing a shot. So why did they want to control New Netherland? Next section, New York and New Jersey. So on your left side of your notes, New York and New Jersey. The Duke of York split the Dutch colony into 2 parts and named them New York and New Jersey. James kept New York for himself. The city of New Amsterdam became New York City. He gave New Jersey to 2 friends of his, John Berkeley and George Carteret. The English treated the Dutch settlers fairly. They promised to protect their rights and property and allowed the colonists to elect some of their own leaders. Most Dutch settlers chose to stay. At first, nearly all of the colonists lived in New York. To attract more settlers to New Jersey, Berkeley and Carteret offered to sell land at low prices. English people soon began arriving in New Jersey. Many of them were members of the Society of Friends, a religious group also known as the Quakers. The Quakers believe that all people are equal. They refuse to fight in wars or to swear loyalty to any king or country. Others who did not share these beliefs often mistreated the Quakers. Thousands of Quakers were arrested in England and thrown into prison, and most were forced to leave the other English colonies. In New Jersey, the Quakers hoped to find a refuge. A refuge is a safe place where they could live and worship as they pleased. In 1674, a group of Quakers bought Berkeley's share of New Jersey and founded the first Quaker settlement in North America. Why were the Quakers often mistreated by those who did not share their beliefs? And our next section of the Middle Colonies, Pennsylvania and Delaware. So what do we need to know about the founding of Pennsylvania and Delaware? and how was Penn's treatment of the Indians related to Quaker beliefs? Pennsylvania and Delaware. Starting in the 1680s, the Middle Colonies expanded. In 1681, King Charles II gave a charter to William Penn, an English Quaker. The charter made Penn the proprietor, or owner, of what is now Pennsylvania. Penn was given the land because the king owed a large amount of money to Penn's father. The new colony was named Pennsylvania, which means Penn's Woods. Penn described the colony as a holy experiment. He wanted all the people living in Pennsylvania, Quakers and non-Quakers, to live together peacefully. In 1682, Penn wrote The Frame of the Government of Pennsylvania. This plan of government set up a legislature called the General Assembly, which would make the laws for the colony. Penn's frame of government gave citizens of Pennsylvania freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to a fair trial by jury. Trial by jury means that people accused of breaking laws have the right to have a group of fellow citizens decide their guilt or innocence. Penn also became the owner of what is now Delaware. When colonists in Delaware asked for their own assembly, he granted it to them willingly. Sure, go ahead. Penn also wanted American Indians to be treated with justice or fairness. In a letter, he told local Lenape Indians his hopes for Pennsylvania. Quote, I desire to enjoy it with your love and consent, that we may always live together as neighbors and friends. And here is William Penn. And let's take a look at the Middle Colonies on this map. What Pennsylvania city was on the Delaware River? William Penn learned to speak the language of the Lenape Indians, and he tried to treat them fairly. When Penn arrived in Philadelphia in 1682, he met with Tamenund and other Lenape Indians. He paid the Indians for most of the land King Charles II had given him and built a long-lasting peace with the Lenape. So how was his treatment related to his Quaker beliefs? In summary, the Middle Colonies were made up of the colonies of New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware. People from many different places and backgrounds settled in the Middle Colonies. Some settlers came because of the rich land, and others came to freely practice their own religion. Questions for group discussion. 1. Why did people from different places and backgrounds settle in the Middle Colonies? 2. Use the term trial by jury in a sentence about the Pennsylvania colony. 3. How does the location explain why New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware were called the Middle Colonies? 4. Why do you think William Penn wanted religious freedom in Pennsylvania? Not just for himself, but for others. And looks like question 5 is a creative question. Okay, so let's look at the biography of Tamenund. Tamenund, quote, "We will live in love with William Penn and his children as long as the creeks and rivers run." No one was surprised to hear Tamenund speak these kind words. He was a kind leader and respected by all who knew him. Tamenund grew up along the Neshaminy? I'm going to go with that. Tamenund grew up along the Neshaminy Creek in the forest of what is now southern Pennsylvania. He belonged to the Lenape tribe, which the English called the Delaware. In his language, Tamenund means affable, or friendly and easy to talk to. The name fit him well. One minister described Tamenund as having every good and noble qualification that a human being can possess. High praise. Tamenund met with Pennsylvania's colonial leaders 5 times over the years. In each meeting, he agreed to sell land. The colonists paid for the land with guns, clothing, tools, blankets, and other items. Tamenund divided these items equally among his tribe members. Not all colonial leaders were as fair as William Penn, yet Tamenund always worked to honor the peace made between the Lenape and the people of Pennsylvania. Justice. Any government is free to the people. Any government is free to the people under it where the laws rule, and the people are a party to those laws. In his frame of government, William Penn included the idea that all citizens of the Pennsylvania colony were to be treated equally under the law. This is the basic idea of justice in government. Penn understood that people are more likely to follow laws when they have a voice in making them. He believed that treating people justly was the key to good government. In some colonies, people accused of a crime could not receive a trial by jury. Lawyers, judges, and juries work to make sure that people receive fair trials. One of the most important ways in which Penn guaranteed a fair government was to give citizens the right to a trial by jury. At that time, very few governments gave people this right. In a trial by jury, a group of citizens, rather than a single person, the judge, decides whether someone has broken the law. A trial by jury puts the power to make decisions in the hands of the people. Today, equal justice is an important idea in American government. The Bill of Rights says that no citizen can be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. This means that all people in the United States have the right to equal treatment under the law. Here's the figure of justice wearing a blindfold because law is supposed to treat all people equally. Why do you think it's important for trials to be public? Something to think about.